Hi, Saturn Conjunct the Moon. Welcome back to my channel. Thanks for being here. I wanted to do this video because I have somehow attracted a lot of Saturn Conjunct the Moon people in my life, and I wanted to show you guys some love today. So, that being said, I think I'll just kind of begin with some of the basics. The moon is the mother. It's supposed to be, well, it's not supposed to be, but it's ruled by Cancer. It's an emotional center of our being. It is how we feel on the inside. It's how we prefer to be nurtured. It's how we nurture other people. It's where we emotionally process. And so, when you have Saturn in this place in your birth chart, it can be a little bit rough. Saturn, it rules Capricorn. It is opposite of Cancer. It is ruled by the father. It is symbolically emblematic of discipline, structure, society. And just to speak on that a bit, it's like, if you take the stereotype that most people have for Capricorn, most of us picture our hustlers, our people who are out there about their money, like love working, love making money. And that's that societal element that at some level we all have to kind of make peace with, because whether you are the kind of person that is more motivated to live off the grid and start a commune and say, F society, I'm not doing it, you're still at the end of the day gonna have to grow some food, which is not easy, or whatever it may be for you, where somehow, some way, you have to make commitments to things, you have to work and do things all the way through. That's that Saturn energy. Now, we live in a capitalist society, and I feel that I bring a bit of a feminist approach to astrology, and I kind of try to be as rooted in the three-dimensional as I can be, because there are real social factors involved, especially with the westernization of the world. And so for a while, I have kind of struggled with my relationship with making money, because it feels so tainted given a lot of the realities of what we live in, where, we can work so hard and there's corporate heads who are making money off of us. And so there is plenty of valuable critique to be had around not wanting to participate in that cycle. So I want to make sure and honor that, and say that at the same time, astrology has given me perspective that allows me to have peace with the fact that making money is a thing, and we kind of can have oftentimes more fulfilling lives when we find ways to deal with the fact that we got to make money, and instead of rejecting it, saying, all right, then what am I going to do that is the highest version of myself and being the most true to myself, and still expecting that I can be paid to do it, So, for folks who have Saturn conjunct the moon, after that tangent, you can probably guess that these people really enjoy working, and it is especially deeply fulfilling to them to be working. They feel at the same note so completely defeated when they do not have success at work, or are unable to earn for their family or something like that. They're that much harder on themselves because they have that emotional connection to being productive and being a worker. And these people show up and get it done, whatever that may be. They have incredible potential to be very, very successful if they can have just enough balance that they're not driving themselves into the ground. And I want to speak a bit about like the emotional characteristics of these people, because they can be so hard on themselves and feel such a massive burden that they will never do enough or never be, good enough or successful enough. And they feel a amount of guilt that is very, very strong and very prevalent in their personal relationships. So that's what I mean when I say if these folks don't drive themselves into the ground, they can be very successful, because you're still a human being if you have this placement and you still have an emotional world that needs nurturance, and that's going to feel very probably foreign to you, or at least harder for you, because I think a lot of the time these folks would rather convince themselves that it's simply impractical to have emotions and they just don't need to feel them, and as long as they're getting money, they're good. And eventually those emotions are going to come knocking and get louder and louder, and they're going to show up in your personal relationships, and you're going to have to deal with them. And emotions help you grow and evolve. And I have met one person with this placement that was older who allowed himself to pretty much close off, like completely, which is really sad, and I don't want that for you folks. But take hope, because I know a lot of Saturn Conjunct Moon people, and a lot of them are emotionally evolving and dealing with their emotions. So I don't want you to think that there's a single story for you. The man who was older that I knew had immense wealth. He owned apartment buildings across the state. He owned many other shopping centers where he was receiving rent money from hundreds of people every single month. And with that money, he bought an amusement park and was earning money from that. And he had 7 houses in the city where I'm from. And so he was immensely wealthy. And in the same note, he was convinced, and I mean convinced because I knew him pretty well, that he did not have enough money, to such a degree that he was kind of demonstrating some hoarder mentality of he couldn't afford to let a piece of paper get thrown away when it could be flipped over and used on the backside, because he wouldn't want to spend more money on a new thing of paper. Where, okay, side note, I think hoarders get way too much hate, because I think there's a lot of beauty in recognizing that items have value and that they can be recycled. So I'm not hating on hoarders. I'm just trying to show you, he was the most extreme version of Saturn conjunct the moon. And I'm also not saying all Saturn conjunct the moon people are like this. I'm just saying that, if you don't let yourself feel the balance that life has to offer, and you only focus on your work and the practical side of things and getting money, it can kind of drive you a little crazy, and you can just end up in an unbalanced place. So yeah, I've noticed that on that same note, folks with Saturn conjunct the moon do appreciate items. They feel emotionally attached to things, and they can often be collectors. A lot of them have really cool taste. They're collecting cool things. If they're not collecting and bringing in a lot of items, they can be the type to really appreciate the quality of items and be wanting to wear designer clothing and have designer sheets on their bed and stuff like that, which is all totally well and good. And it's just something that I think when you acknowledge that it's natural in your energetic code, just to honor it. And try and not let it get way too out of balance, but it's a thing. And that's how these people can often be. Let's see. More about the emotional nature of these folks is that they can have really cold relationships with their mothers and have had to raise themselves. They may be like the eldest sibling, or for some reason had to just like be grown at like the age of 6 or something crazy like that, where their inner child was really never nurtured. And so that can be the story at times, where you got onto this track of just being like, well, working is just more practical. These are hard nuts to crack. I don't know if I already said that, but they're not likely to elaborate on how they're feeling at all. They're kind of hard to get to know. But because of the fact that y'all are humans, if you have this placement, I think that it's important to realize that while you may have that emotional fulfillment from working, and you may have this stoicism towards emotions, that it's incredibly valuable to give yourself some kind of soft landing and finding people who you feel emotionally safe to be vulnerable around. Because I think these people have an extra hard time being vulnerable and being kind to themselves and being gentle to themselves, right? Because they've got that incredibly potent, harsh, societal, structure, discipline, work energy right on their emotional center. So I want to say that no matter how much you work, which it can be fulfilling and that's great, that feeling of that you're not enough and that you have not done enough and that you feel guilty and burdened, it's not going to go away from working more. It can be softened with you, a conscious person's individual, intentional approach to yourself, allowing yourself to visit your inner child and nurture your inner child and soften that inner world where you go, through a guided meditation and walk over every inch of your body with gratitude and love, and just, you can require a bit more practice and a little more intentionality in order for you to learn what it's like to be gentle with yourself. And that's extremely valuable for you folks. And also, again, just having people who help you with that. Because sometimes you can manifest people, if you're not ready to evolve, you can manifest people who are really, really hard on you. And you're gonna subconsciously, even if consciously you're like arguing with them and being like, why are you so hard on me? There's some subconscious part of you that kind of likes it because you think that that's what you deserve, is to have just like constant criticism. And that's not the case. And you can break out of that, and you can feel fulfilled, and you can believe that you are enough. You are enough. Whether you've earned $1 million or not, whether you have provided for your family or not, I just really want to emphasize that. I think that these people can take so much personally. Anything in their lives they can interpret as a personal failure, and they can feel so much guilt. And so it's kind of like a really heavy placement. And for folks who have this placement too, like if you're in relationships and people really want to love you, like it can be hard on them too, because you're almost like not allowing any gentle love in. You can be a little bit hard to love because you reject that notion that you deserve this like gentleness. So that's hard for these people to work through. And I want to say right now that you may be listening to this video and then continuing to beat yourself up for beating yourself up. And I just really would love to encourage you all to take a practice of, even though you possibly will despise the thought of it, but just like I said, doing those, setting aside time to get into your feelings and be especially gentle there, and allowing yourself permission to make mistakes, and making mistakes with enthusiasm, because that's what we do as human beings. And you're really not living if you're not making mistakes. So it would be ridiculous to assume that you would be flawless at all times. I think these people can oftentimes, if they're a little bit more emotionally open, they can be like constantly apologizing because they feel this heavy guilt on their shoulders. So this placement is not for the weak, but the way it manifests for folks will appear very differently, especially depending on where the moon is placed and how it is aspected, from other things in the chart. And these people are like very together, and they like are determined to take care of themselves, but it is actually strength, believe it or not, to allow people to take care of you, to allow people to love you and to receive their love and to receive their kindness. But you have to first probably have some grounds inside of you to receive that, where you yourself have done that work to say, I am deserving of kindness and gentleness, the inner child work, right? These people are very, very consistent, incredibly capable, incredibly stubborn, and I say that in the best way, because when you guys want to do something, you're going to do it. Really, really reliable and really grounding people, which is incredibly helpful for folks who don't have so much grounding energy and who are more scattered and up in the air. You can really bring that like 3-dimensional vibe of just bringing people back down to earth, which is so helpful and necessary for a lot of folks. You can be like really gritty, and to me it's so likable, like really kind of like short with your words and direct and like have really high pain tolerances. With astrology, different signs are attributed to different body parts, and there's an interesting pattern that I've recognized with people who have Saturn conjunct the moon, where they may have something in their whatever this chakra is, but like the feeling grounded in yourself chakra, it's almost like clenching too tightly, so they can have like issues with digestion and just kind of like gut problems or problems in this region of any various kind. So yeah, that's a fun fact. And yeah, I just want to say, any person, regardless of what their birth chart has, or regardless of where they're from or whatever, we all as humans can get stuck, of course. We can suppress our emotions, and it's just helpful to know exactly the ways that we specifically are inclined to do so, and that's why I like astrology. And so I want to encourage these people, as I'm repeating myself now, but emphasis on giving attention to your emotional world in a gentle way. It is not only beneficial for you, but like I said, those people who you really want to show up for, who you feel so guilty that you haven't done enough for them, if you want to show up for them in a way that's really meaningful, it is helpful to do some emotional work on yourself. And I think that summarizes what I have to say for you people. I have been blessed with a number of y'all in my life, and I'm very thankful for you. So much love, and I hope this was helpful. All right, goodbye.